All right. Welcome to the Stretch to Go podcast. My name is Ian Ray. I'm your host. And today we have my friend who I got to meet up in Canada at the Stretch to Win Institute course, Adrienne Davis. Adrienne, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, Ian. It's like a pleasure to hear your voice again, see your face, feel connected, and to see all the exciting things that you're doing. So thanks for having me.
Yes, you're welcome. So a little bit about Adrienne. I know she's going to introduce herself, but Adrienne is a fascial stretch practitioner. She's also a personal trainer. Menopause, sorry, I'm going to butcher this, but a menopause and help me out.
Health and fitness specialist. Yep.
Health and fitness specialist. Also a nutrition coach, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. And also she used to be in fashion designing.
Yes. You did get that info.
Yeah. But yeah, so well over, let's see, since 2011, she's been a personal trainer, but I want to give her duty to kind of explain herself, her story, kind of learn about, how she got into doing personal training and how she got into fascial stretch practice as a fascial stretch practitioner. So Adrienne, go ahead, please introduce yourself.
Okay. Wow. So I'll try to keep it abbreviated, but where to begin? So my personal training career started late in life. I got certified as a personal trainer in 2011 after a decade in the fashion industry, working as a buyer and a designer. It was a bit of a rat race, and I had 2 kids between 2005 and 2009. So my life became infinitely more busy and stressful. And I was looking for something a bit more flexible. So I had always been really interested in fitness, athletic my whole life. And it seemed like an option that I could sort of find some flex time, be able to sort of be home with my kids and take them to school, drop them off, stuff like that. So I did get certified in 2011 and I started my own business. I shortly thereafter worked for Good Life Fitness, which is a box gym here in Canada. And that was short-lived because I wasn't getting the flex time that I needed. And then shortly after that, I just had my own business. I've been running it since then. And I've done everything from running group classes, boot camps, one-on-one PT. I now do fascial stretch, and my main demographic has evolved to be women in midlife. So women who are often going through peri and postmenopause. Years ago, I worked with a lot of prenatal clients, but my clients have kind of evolved along as I have. So I became certified as a menopause health and fitness specialist last year, just over a year ago. Because that's my main clientele. Those are the people that I really try to help. And I've worked with the NIA health team here in Canada on a few projects, and they are like specific to the menopause community as well. And as far as getting into fascial stretch therapy, I think that was part of the question. I actually have done a few different workshops and certs with Kevin Darby. And I know you've mentioned in previous podcasts that he is the founder of Stretch to Win Canada. But I worked with him as a personal trainer. I did his barbell strength course. I've also done DTS level 1. I did a bunch of stuff with him. And I actually, early on in my career, when I was at Good Life Fitness, I was it was called Fascial Stretch Essentials, I believe it was called. And it was like a condensed 2-day, like dip your toe in and let's you're going to want to come back, which was entirely accurate. But at the time, it's not an inexpensive thing to do. And I was early in my career and I was like, I'll get to it down the road. And I just wanted to do it. And I never got to it. And then working with clients in my home now. So I have my own space. I can set up however I want. I can have access to a table. And I'm working with these women in midlife who are dealing with so much stress between their sandwich generation. We've got aging parents, often young kids, careers, so we're trying to balance all the plates, and people come into my studio on the regular, and it's more than just, I want to do training here. It's like they come in and they unload because it's a safe space. And that is something that I really love about my work, and that I pride myself on, being able to offer that safety to people. And their nervous systems are like jacked up. So
Yeah.
what I was constantly doing was like, let's just down regulate before we even get into anything today. Let's just sort of center you. And so I can't remember, I guess I had done the barbell strength course quite recently, and I just was like, I should do that level 1. I should do that fascial stretch level 1. It would be so good for that exact reason. And I dove in. I took the week off. I went and I did it. We met and worked together, and it was so great. I had so much fun, and I learned so much, and I felt so equipped when I came back to genuinely help people get out of pain, release some stress, and really be in a good headspace to train on days where maybe they're experiencing severe joint pain or mild depression, or, symptoms of menopause that can be really, really overwhelming and difficult to deal with on a day-to-day. So that's the long drawn out answer to your first question. So we'll see where this goes now.
Well, I love that how, this is your passion. This is what you love to do. You find a lot of joy, I'm assuming, with, helping these women through their time of peri and post menopause, right? And so I guess how did that come through? Because as a personal trainer, you are kind of trying to find a niche, right, to be in, to work with. As far as you can train a lot of people, but eventually you come down to, who am I actually going to be serving, So how did you get into that menopause and peri-post?
That's a really good question. I'm glad that you asked it. Because for a long time, I struggled with that question. I was like, what is my niche? I felt like it was moms, people who I could identify with. And I struggled. When I was around 40, I started dealing with symptoms of perimenopause. There was the typical lots of hot flashes, sleeplessness, et cetera, et cetera. And I was not diagnosed. I went to my doctor on multiple occasions, and she just kept sending me to different specialists. Let's send you to an ear, nose, and throat specialist because you have anxiety and your throat is closing up and you can't swallow. And, things that were so off of my radar. And I was like, I'm pretty sure I'm in this. Like, I'm pretty positive these are perimenopause symptoms. But she kept saying, oh, you're healthy. Everything's fine. Just keep going. And so as I moved through the stages, and then I am now postmenopausal, things really shifted in my fitness in particular. I used to run outdoor classes 3 days a week, and I was like so exhausted, not finding joy in them anymore. My joints were killing me. I wasn't recovering properly, and my performance in the gym was just going like straight downhill. So I had to do a lot of research. And when I started going through it, like, menopause is like a hot topic right now. I'm sure you've seen it all over social media. It's like a big deal, which I couldn't be happier about. But when I went through it, it was not. So I was digging, trying to find research and resources. And I did come across a few. And then I had to just kind of advocate for myself. And I always thought, if I'm having this much trouble figuring out why I can't recover in the gym, why suddenly I can't lift what I could before, think of all the other people who don't have access to the information that I have, who are going through it. And they ended up being many of my clients because they've moved through their lives with me. I've been training so many of my clients since I started PT, like since 2011. So I was like, I need to support these people. I don't want them to feel like I felt when I didn't have the support. And so I just kind of was an organic way to sort of niche down and find my people. Like I think I mentioned to you, in my bio, I've worked with a couple of high level athletes, like youth athletes. I've worked
Hmm.
with middle school kids, high school kids, aging populations, men and women. But the people who I find I form really strong connections with and that I really am able to help the most are people like myself. They're people in
Yeah.
midlife who are just, struggling with all the same issues that I also had to deal with. So that's basically how I ended up sort of shifting into that space.
So did you always feel that you were, I know you said that you love fitness and whatnot, but what was that change? Was it the change from, fashion designing to personal training? Was that a hard jump for you to do, or were you looking forward to because of the flexibility and because of, like you said, you were always interested in health and
Mhm.
fitness?
Was. So was it a hard jump? I mean, there were parts of it that were easy and parts of it that were really hard. The hardest part was I was a pretty senior level buyer, designer, like I was a design director, and I walked away from a pretty nice paycheck. That was hard. Um, it was hard, personal training, especially in the early days, it's hard to make a living. It's really hard.
Mhm.
I was actually, there was a moment in time where I sort of I looked at it and I was like, I'm actually giving money away at this point. Like I'm barely breaking even. So that was a real education and that was difficult. But part of the reason that that ended up happening was because I felt so much joy. I love working with people, making them feel better. When people come here, it's my studio's in my home. And when they come here and they say, that was a really hard session or whatever, and I say, well, how do you feel now relative to when you came in? And they say, oh, I feel way better. And it's like, that's the goal. That is my absolute top, maybe only goal is that you leave here feeling better than when you came. And that always happens when I work with people. So there was joy always. It was always like, I love connecting with people. People have a gripe or they're feeling upset or they're angry and they come in and they need to unload and they're like, sorry, sorry. And I'm like, no, no, this is a gift for me. This is a thing that I want to be able to help you work through. And it's wellness, right? Coming in here
Yeah.
feeling a certain way. Like my job is to bring you a sense of peace and wellness and that you leave here feeling better than when you came. So sometimes they feel like they could conquer the world because they've had this great session and they feel super strong. And sometimes they just feel like, oh, like I can breathe a little easier. And both of those things are valid for me. So, yeah.
So you mentioned like the typical like I guess the demographic population that you're working with. Normally you said it was about like mid 40s, but you work with younger kids and older population. But currently, when you, I guess the people that you're working with, is that the same demographic and population right now that you're currently working with, the clientele?
Well, I would say probably about, gosh, 85, 90% of my clients fall into some part of that spectrum. Like some women will go into menopause much earlier than others. They say the average age, I don't know the exact specifics on the data, but I think the average is about 51 for actual like for menopause specifically. But that can, I went through perimenopause for 8 years. Some women might go through it for shorter, some for longer. So it covers a kind of a wide spectrum of ages, and that demographic can be quite broad. But I also had two university athletes who have been on my table stretching, right? So one of them just was a first round draft pick in the NHL draft this year, so that's fun. But it's not my clientele generally, right?
Okay.
So I love helping those people, and I treat every individual that comes into my studio like a bit of a puzzle, right? Like, oh, my shoulder's a bit jacked up, it's sort of hurting. Okay, well, let's do a little bit of stretch and then let's do a little bit of weights and let's see how it feels. And so to get an athlete on the table is a different kind of a puzzle, but also really fun. So,
Sure.
and then, yeah, I get like, you know, teenage kids from the high school across the street, and they come over and they have a totally different set of issues. Sometimes they're feeling anxious about their work in the gym outside of when they come here, and we can smooth that over and sort it out. So everybody has their own little things that I find really interesting and fun to work through. But generally, yes, to answer your question a bit more pointedly, menopausal or midlife women are the people who I generally help the most here.
So switching over to the next topic, I know we finished to where we were talking about fascial stretch therapy.
Mm-hmm.
So you found out about FST because you went to Kevin Darby's his DTS training up in Toronto there, and got a lot of certifications. Did you have any initial thoughts when you were registering for this course? Any hesitancy about it, or were you kind of like sold because you took the 2-day stretch course?
Okay, well, that's a great question too. I would say it's hard for me to remember the first course that I did with Kevin. I think it was the DTS one, but Kevin came to me highly recommended when I was working at Good Life by the fitness manager there. His name was Drew Tyler. And he was like, you should take it. You should take it, whatever. Kevin's great. It's a good thing to have. So I did it. And Kevin was so much fun to learn from. Like, you know this. He was so engaging, so passionate, funny, so clearly organized. Like everything was great. So I was never, any offering that he had, if I had all the money in the world, I would do it all. Like, so the Fascial Stretch Essentials workshop was amazing. I think I saw a little bit less of him in that one than I did in the one that we did together. But I would never for a second not take something for fear of, like, his courses are amazing. And this one was no different. I thought it was my favorite one for sure. And all the instructors were awesome. And, Kevin didn't disappoint. It was great.
Yeah, you're not the first one who has raved about his DTS course and the amazing training and just the hands-on experience that you get, I guess. Because he seems like he's been doing this for a long time. He has credibility, within the fitness community. So kudos to you, Kevin.
Yeah, I will. The one thing that I will also say about Kevin, I feel like he aligns very well with who I am as a coach. He said something in the workshop too, which I'll get to, but he's just so, he really cares about everybody that's in that room and wants to connect with each person and wants to find like the best way to help every single one of us, right? Like, he isn't a person who just gets up and teaches. He is in it with you. And he said something, I can't remember if it was the end or the beginning, but it was sort of a quiet moment, and he was talking about many of the people who he was working with. And some of them were fire department, some of them were police. And I can't remember what the other ones he referred to, but he was like, many of the people who come onto my table have only understood physical touch in an aggressive way, right? Not in a caring way where they can relax into it. And he spoke to that. And I was like, that is my clients maybe haven't been experiencing touch aggressively, but that's what my clients need. They need this caring touch to let them just like chill and relax and feel safe. And the whole time that I was in that, I'm very shy and I'm a bit anxious in those kinds of group settings, but I always feel safe in his workshops. And that was something that I really aligned with and that I took away. And I left feeling like that's what I want to do. That is how I want to embrace all of my clients. So that's all I'll say, but Kevin is really wonderful.
So can you share with us, I know you've been doing some fascia stretch therapy with some of your clients. how are you including them into with your clients, I guess? How are you including FST with your clients? Is it before, after? Do you give them options, or do you kind of assess like, hey, I think you might need a stretch? Tell me.
Okay. So for me, I would say more often than not, it ends up being either after they train or completely separate from their training. They'll come in just to stretch, even though I'll have seen them twice that week to do personal training. I have one client who I work with 3 times a week in personal training, and she comes 2 of those times right after for a full 1-hour stretch after she's trained. And some people I will notice in real time, there's a problem with the shoulder, maybe it's a bit jammed. They can't overhead press without compensating or not getting into positions. And I'll be like, get on the table, do a little bit of a pec stretch, check things out, get into their lats. And then they get off the table and we go back to it. And now suddenly they can press without pain or with better range of motion. So I'll do like little bits and pieces within the personal training session, or I'll just give them like a full hour, a 90-minute stretch. And that's usually after, because I feel like a lot of my clients really crave that like down regulation, like sort of centering themselves back. So where someone like yourself, I think you probably do a lot of it as pre-workout, like building up the nervous system, right? Like doing kind of the opposite. So for me, it's a little less of that. But I have had really good success with so many people. And as I'm sure you're aware, like the more consistently that they come in to do it, the more exponential they see results. But yeah, generally it's more of a down regulating thing. And that just goes back to what I said about my general demographic. They come in here and they're like so tightly wound. It's like my kid, is struggling in school. My other kid just went to university and it broke my heart and I miss them. And, an ill parent, or there's something going on at school and I have to juggle that with picking my other kid up or graduate. Like it's just a smorgasbord of stressors. And so I find that pain is this loop that when you can down regulate someone's nervous system, often you can get them out of pain without actually having to even treat the pain site, right? It's just like getting their brain to sort of switch off of that stress response cycle. So that's, yeah, I don't even remember the question anymore, Ian. I just like to talk.
No, I think that down regulation system, I know I shared that one clip and we had a kind of little short conversation about how important that is, right? With the fascia stretch therapy. And I want you to explain to me and the audience, when you're talking to your clients, what fascia is and what FST does to their fascia. How do you explain that to them? Like what you're doing?
Okay. So my daughter's just leaving to go to dance. Bye. It's okay. Don't apologize. Bye-bye. I'll check in with you for pickup. Okay. So 2 things. The first one is the thing that seems to work for me, which is kind of weird, is I tell people, when you get like a chicken breast and it's got like that sort of like slimy film on the outside. It's kind of like if you had that crossing all the different parts of your body, right? Like connecting muscles and tendons. You got this kind of sheath of tissue, right? That has a variety of things running through it, nerves, blood flow, etc. And then I just kind of, I use the cues and the visuals that I got from Kevin's workshops, which were, the first one was, and I have black on so you can't see it, but if you grab your shirt and pull on it, you'll see lines that create like tension, right, in the fabric. So I use that as a visual for them to understand that when your fascia is tight, it can create that tension in those lines in different parts of your body that can affect, maybe it starts here, but when you're done, it can affect your hip, right? Because the line crosses over that joint. And then the other one that I use, which is always a crowd pleaser, this is my very favorite. And again, I learned this from Kevin, was, I think we did it in the workshop. The one where you get them to take their finger and push it back, and then they can get into a certain range. And then you say, okay, now pull your finger up and then push it back. And then you do it again afterwards. And they immediately light up. They're like, whoa, like that's trippy. How does that work? Game, like crowd pleaser every time. So those two were really good cues, really good little tricks to illustrate it.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I love hearing different people's and how they explain fascia, especially to your clients, because it helps other people who are listening to this podcast. Like, why are they always talking about fascia? Well, fascia is, it encompasses you. You know, that's what your body is made up of. It's fascia that holds everything together. So, thank you for that.
No problem.
I was gonna piggyback on you were mentioning about the different clients that you've been working with. Give us some success stories that you have since, you know, it's been 2 months. We've had this course. I'm sure you applied it, but give us some success stories or wins that you've had of clients that's been stretched.
All right. Well, there's one standout, and I have a client who comes 3 times a week for personal training, and she does 2 days of stretching a week. When she first came to me, this would have been about a year ago. She is a pretty high, she would argue with me and be modest, but she is a pretty high level rock climber. And she came to me because she had tightness in her hips. She has just her physiology, her makeup, her hips are quite closed and tight. And she was struggling to get close to the wall or the rock face because her hips were not opening, like they were not getting enough space, right? Because you need to be knees out, open, and close to the face so that you are tight and can hold on. So with personal training, we made a lot of headway, which was great. And then after, I would say 3 weeks of consistently stretching her, she's like a noodle now, like actually a totally different person than she was when she came to see me. I remember getting her to do step ups and she was getting pain in her knee and hips. And now she just did like a 600-kilometer ride to like Montreal in the summer. She was like, everybody was taped up and people were dealing with injuries. And she was like, I slept on the floor of a tent every night and I rode hundreds of kilometers a day, 100 kilometers a day, and was fine. Like had no pain, felt great, and just crushed it. So it's been really fun to watch, to hear all of that and to see her really make so much progress over a really rather short period of time. And then just other ones are as simple as they come in that day, their shoulder is in pain. I have another young soccer athlete who comes here and she fell playing and she had like a shoulder contusion. And she was like, you know, can we lay off today? So one session, I just switched her over and said, let's just stretch today instead of training. And the next one, I just got into her shoulder and worked through a few things, opened up her pecs. And next time I saw her, she's like, it feels great. So it can have like really immediate impact. And then the long-term impact is also amazing. Another client was just here before we met. And she came to me 2 weeks ago. Her feet were so painful, she couldn't walk. I stretched her. And then she was like, I haven't felt pain in my feet since then. So it's fun. It's really fun. I love the real-time response that the body has. It's really cool.
Yeah, I think that's why when I first stretched a real client and actually started working on them, because I had this vision in mind. I'm like, oh, I'm going to heal them right away. But in reality, it has taken him, about 2 months to actually see progress. So I think every body is different, you know. That's great that you see, you know, immediate results, which I hope I can find those type of people, you know, that will feel it. Because everyone does. Once you get off the table, they do feel it. They're either lighter, you know, more looser. So I feel like they do feel that immediate impact. But like the long term, I think I want them to say, this is helping me to, you know, reach whatever goals that I have. So what would you say to that one person that's on the fence about enrolling with Stretch to Win, the FST course?
I would say, is it only one thing I can say, Ian?
You can say many things you want.
Okay. I would say that it's absolutely true what they tell you about you'll make your money back in no time, right? Like the expense it's not nothing, but my FST business blew up so fast, I was not expecting it. I do like I have a full schedule of personal training, and I would say I do at least 5 sessions of FST, 5 60-minute sessions a week. And I've only been
Dang.
certified since July. Yeah. So that is number one. And number two, if you have clients that are struggling to get out of pain and have performance issues, game changer. Like it's just entirely worth the time and money. I like, and I love Kevin, right? So that's a given. But yeah, I would say like no hesitation. Absolutely. Highly, highly recommend for sure.
So for those who are looking to, enroll into Stretch to Win and learn about how to become a fascia stretch practitioner, the best place is to go to www.stretchtowin.com, where you can learn about how this modality that's founded by Chris and Ann Frederick, that's where we found out about how to do this to heal people, to help them to bring to life things that they should be feeling every day, which is a sense of energy, to be calm, to have more movement in their life. And I'm grateful that I went to Canada instead of America, to the US side, because I got to meet you and everyone else that I've been interviewing. So because it's I've never been there. I've never been to Canada, and so I have I'm looking.
Yeah, that's each other.
I know. I'll just have to drive like 8 hours.
Okay, I'll feed you.
Okay, deal. But yeah, I'm looking forward to taking the level 2 as soon as I feel like I can get enough more time doing FST. But to close up, Adrienne, if you want to share with the audience how people can follow you and learn more about what you're doing, and of course, if they're in your area, please share us your social media handle, your website, an email, and then where they can locate you to offer to come to do an FST session.
Okay, so you can find me on Instagram. You might not find much about personal training and stretching on my Instagram, but you can find me at Empower Me Fitness, at Empower Me Fitness. You can find me online on my website, which is empowermefitness.com. In terms of booking sessions, I am in the process of figuring out a new booking system, but currently you can just send me a DM, which is Adrienne, ADRIENNE, at empowermefitness.com. And did I cover them all? What else is there?
I guess which areas do you serve?
Oh,
in the GTA?
Downtown West-ish. I'm like Oakwood and St. Clair, which is not all that downtown, but sort of on the way. And I'm in my home. Like my studio is in the basement of my home. So we have a nice, quiet, personal space with a full setup.
Awesome. Thank you so much for letting me interview you and kind of talking about FST, your journey, what you're doing. And I hope that I can continue to see more. You should post more FST stuff on your social. That'll be awesome. I know it might not be for you, but like that'll help bring more people saying, "Oh wow, what is this?" And it's since you're busy, I know this might be too much, but it's just 30-second clip.
I know, you're good at it. I'm not good at it. It's not my jam. I try once in a while. I try to get back into it, but I don't know. We'll figure it out at some point.
Yeah.
For now, we'll just keep reading your stuff.
But yeah, so thank you so much for hopping on to my podcast. And for those of you who are tuning in, don't forget to follow, like, and subscribe to the Stretch to Go podcast. Adrienne, it's been a pleasure, and we'll keep in touch soon.
Thank you so much, Ian. I hope that I get to see you in Canada again.
Yes, I will. I will be coming for sure.
All right. And when you do your level 2, let me know, because I want to know that I'm going to know some people there, and I think it'd be fun.
True.
Mexico, baby. Okay. All right.
Awesome.
Okay. Take it easy. Great to see you again.
You too. Bye.
Okay. Bye.